6 rock stars talking about Spotify, and it gets real. Joni Mitchell has 3.7 million monthly listeners. Neil Young, around 6.2 million. But Joe Rogan, a podcaster, pulls in over 11 million. That one fact alone hit hard. Are musicians slowly being pushed to the sidelines in their own industry? 6 rock stars just opened up about Spotify, and what they said might change how you see the future of music.
Often you can tell a lot by a company and the experience by the people. That's my belief. And Danny's he's a great man and has a great soul.
One of the rock stars had a lot of positive things to say about Spotify, but he also had some honest questions about where it's all going. He's one of those artists who has had a genuinely good experience with the platform. You could tell he wasn't just being polite about it either, he seemed grateful. What stood out the most was how much he praised Daniel Ek, the CEO of Spotify. He described him as a man with a great soul, someone who left an impression. According to him, you can tell a lot about a company by looking at the kind of people who run it. And in this case, he seemed to admire Daniel, which says a lot.
Spotify, now whether, we talk about this 10 years from now, whether it's the future or not, I don't know if it's limited to a yes or a no, but it certainly is working right now.
But even with all the good vibes, there was still some hesitation in his voice. He admitted that Spotify is working well right now, like it's doing something right. People are listening, the music is out there, and the whole streaming model is making waves. Still, he wasn't convinced that it was the final answer for the future of music. He didn't come out and say it's doomed, but he questioned whether it'll still be the thing 10 years from now. And that's fair, right? Technology moves fast, and the music industry is always changing. This rock star didn't sugarcoat a single thing when talking about Spotify. He came in hot, frustrated, passionate, and brutally honest. In his eyes, the platform isn't just flawed, it's hurting the future of music. He compared it to walking into a supermarket, picking up whatever you want, and walking right out without paying. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly how he feels streaming works. Artists, producers, engineers, everyone put in time, talent, and money to create music, but fans have been trained to expect it for free. And over time, that mindset is doing serious damage.
Look, my daughter had a 10 million, Sophie Simmons had a 10 million viewed single last year, 2 years ago. 10 million, she made $214. Spotify's taken all the money, record companies.
He shared a personal story that hit home. His daughter, Sophie Simmons, had a single that pulled in 10 million streams. You'd think that kind of success would bring in some decent money, right? She made just $214. That's not a typo. 10 million streams? And barely enough to pay for a couple of weeks of groceries. And it's not about the money for him. He said his rent is paid, he's doing fine. But the bigger issue is what this means for the next generation.
I'm doing okay, my rent's paid, but you're killing the new band, you're killing the next Beatles, and that breaks my heart.
The new artists, the ones just starting, dreaming big. He said it best, you're not hurting me, you're hurting the new bands. You're killing the next Beatles.
There's a reason that Tool waited as long as they did to put this stuff up on streaming services, because they knew they weren't going to be compensated for something that they worked their asses.
This rock star pulled no punches either. He said it straight up, the labels pimped out their artists, and the way he broke it down, it makes a lot of sense when you hear it from someone who's been in the industry long enough to see all the shady deals happening behind the scenes. According to him, when streaming platforms like Spotify started rising, the big record labels saw a goldmine. But instead of fighting for better pay for the artists, they cut equity deals with Spotify, meaning they got ownership in the company in exchange for agreeing to super low streaming payouts for the musicians.
The label. Yeah. So the label is making huge amounts of money, and they are not contractually bound to pay us for that because of what they call new technology.
So while you'd think the artists would benefit from having their music streamed millions of times, it turns out most of the cash is going to the labels. They're the ones who are profiting as Spotify's value goes up. The artists, they're left with pennies. And the most messed up part? These labels aren't even legally required to share the money they're making from these equity deals. They don't have to give the artists a single dime because it's considered new technology under old contracts.
Cut with the streaming services, they got into ownership equity deals with the streaming services. In an arrangement for them to have an equity position, they agreed to very low rates for the artist's music.
This rock star took a totally different approach, more thoughtful, more reflective. Instead of just bashing streaming or blindly praising it, he broke it all down into 3 types of artists that exist today. And honestly, it was kind of eye-opening. According to him, the way you look at streaming and technology says a lot about your future in the music world. The first group, total doom and gloom. These are the artists who think streaming destroyed everything. They say the music industry is dead, nobody buys records anymore, and everything's gone downhill. You've probably heard some people like this, the ones stuck in the past, constantly talking about how good things used to be. Then there's the second group, the optimists. They're not in denial about the changes, but instead of complaining, they ask, how can this work for me? These artists use streaming platforms, social media, and every tool they can get their hands on to reach more fans, build a brand, and create something sustainable. They understand that the game has changed, so they figure out how to play it better.
Piracy is what killed aspects of this industry. Streaming is bringing it back.
This rockstar had a much more positive take on streaming, especially compared to some of the others. He made a solid point before Spotify and other platforms came along. Piracy was completely wrecking the music industry. People were downloading songs illegally left and right, and artists weren't getting paid at all. He believes streaming in many ways saved the business. It gave fans an easy and legal way to access music, and at least now there's some money coming in again, even if it's not perfect. But he didn't sugarcoat everything either. He had one huge warning for all artists out there. Read your contract. That's where most of the problems start. A lot of musicians don't even realize they're getting paid less than a penny per stream. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true. You could have thousands, even millions of plays and still walk away with barely anything to show for it, all because of the fine print in your deal.
I'm one of the few people who's in the music industry that really likes how things are going. Like, I like streaming. I don't mind that people don't buy records anymore. Maybe it's just because I've been like...
This rock star wasn't apologizing for his opinion at all. He straight up said he likes streaming, and honestly, he made some solid points. He's one of the few who enjoys how the music industry works today. He doesn't miss the old days of CD sales or waiting on labels to give artists a shot. In his eyes, the internet and platforms like Spotify have opened up the playing field. If you've got talent and drive, you can build an audience without needing a big machine behind you. That kind of access, he thinks it's powerful. He talked about how streaming gives exposure to artists who might have never been heard before. You don't need to be famous to get a few 100,000 plays anymore. All it takes is a song that connects with people. He sees that as a win, especially for the new generation of musicians who just want a chance. But he didn't ignore the problems either. He called out the obvious. Spotify still isn't paying artists fairly. He joked, maybe only half joking, about execs riding around in Bentleys while the people making the music are begging for a little more change. That part still stings. The royalty system is broken, and everyone knows it. Bonus mic drop. Do musicians even matter anymore? This one hit different. It wasn't just another complaint or rant, it felt like a real moment of reflection. One artist looked at the numbers and asked the kind of question that stings. Do musicians even matter anymore? He pointed out that Joni Mitchell, a living legend, has around 3.7 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Neil Young, another icon, has about 6.2 million. But Joe Rogan, he's pulling in around 11 million. That's a podcast host getting nearly double the attention of two of the most respected names in music. He wasn't saying this to hate on Joe Rogan. It wasn't even about him. Point was bigger than that. It was about how the world has shifted. Musicians used to be the center of the cultural conversation. Their songs shaped movements, their voices led change, and their albums were events. But now, it feels like artists are slowly becoming background noise while personalities and influencers take center stage. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.